Bears an 8 deep. 4 of them at the goal line. They bring 3. Daniels backing up. He's just going to have to let one fly. Goes to the right side. Steps away from the defenders. Gives himself some time. Now steps up, fires. Heads towards the end zone. It is
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. That sound you heard at the top was the Hail Mary that gave the Commanders a miracle win against the Bears, and that's right.
Never in doubt, Connor Rogers. Hail Commanders, hail victory.
As you see, of course, Jayden Daniels, no Brown.
They drink free. Dan Quinn drinks free. Tyreek Stevenson of the Bears, you drink free. Everybody drinks free.
Are you kidding
me? Beers on the house. Are you kidding me? That's living right is what that is. That
really
is living right.
That really is.
That is God saying, listen, we put...
Well, God.
Yeah, God.
God's in the mix early.
That's God coming down and saying, you know what? I put you guys through hell for over 20 years with Dan Snyder. I owe you a couple.
Yeah?
I owe you a couple. This one's happening.
I guess you forgot about the Jets.
Yeah, that's 1,000%.
Yeah.
Listen, at some point that's your own. God was trying to do it, but then Rodgers audibled out of it to a different play. But we'll get there in a second, Connor. Don't you worry about it. Your Jets aren't getting off the hook today. But for now, it's all about the Commanders. It's all about the Commanders. Hail Commanders, hail victory. Jayden Daniels, that boy's special. He is special.
Best Commanders win this century? Any RG3 win top that?
I don't know. I mean,
century?
That might be that.
What do you mean? This century?
No, the century in the 2000s.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like the last Super Bowl.
This is what I said. I was texting with a good buddy of mine who's also a crazy Commanders fan, and we were texting before that. He actually went to the game, and he was. I was saying like my favorite play. We were just going back and forth on like sort of Washington history, and I said my favorite play of all time. John Riggins, 4th and 1 in the Super Bowl against the Dolphins, takes it to the house, seals the game. But this is my second favorite play.
Yeah.
That's still my favorite play of all time. But this one, I think, is my second play. Like the RG3 run against Minnesota, a couple of big plays against the Saints. There's handfuls in there. Santana Moss deep to beat the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. But man, oh man, that was awesome.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the only saving grace for me of this whole thing and of this whole episode is that I have this bet on Dan Quinn Coach of the Year. So I'm also cheering the Commanders. Otherwise, it would be completely unbearable. But I don't know about you guys, but something that I do when I have a bet on something and it's going badly, I just turn the TV off, just kind of out of frustration. And then I'll turn it back on, like a couple of plays later. But I'll just like try and assert some influence over what's going on. And so I turned it off and I checked the odds on DraftKings. After Daniels had the incomplete to Ertz over the middle with the first play of the final drive, the Bears were minus 50,000 to win the game, and then they lost. So that's it. That's the result. Game was over. Because I thought there's a chance. If he completes the first pass and they get time out at the 50, then there's a chance. But after the first incompletion, like, this is over. And then it wasn't.
And then it wasn't. Should have bet something at minus 50,000.
Or the other side of it.
Exactly.
A miracle special win for the Commanders.
Plus 50,000.
Obviously.
Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
No, ball didn't even reach the end zone, but never in doubt.
Yeah, I mean, like all of it, it's so unbelievable. Like it's so unbelievable. Like you can't make it up, right? Like I mean, Tyreek Stevenson.
Well, that's the best part.
I mean, the best part, Tyreek Stevenson. I'm sure you've seen the video at this point. It's gone crazy viral on social, but in essence, if for some reason you haven't, defensive back for the Bears, Tyreek Stevenson, number 29. As the play starts, he's literally in the corner of the end zone taunting Commanders fans. He's like yelling at the stands, and like there's a play, and so he's like sitting there, blah, 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 and then he's just like, oh, there's a play going on, and so then he runs again into the play, and if you watch the replay, 29, he's the guy that hits the ball up and back for Noah Brown to catch into the end zone. It's like it's the most karmically wonderful thing I've ever seen in my life, and anyway, it's just unbelievable, and that's living right is what it is.
It's a movie script couldn't write that.
No.
That moment. Like his point of view is it's unbelievable.
No, if you saw that in a movie, you'd be like, that would never happen.
Right,
Like,
it's
that's
stupid.
one of those things.
Stupid.
It's
It's not
stupid.
football.
Come on.
Yeah.
Make this real. Like, what is this, draft day? Like, what are we doing? Come on, make
Right.
something
Right.
real that might actually happen in a football game.
I would get it if Daniels was on like his own 20, but like this is a real play. Like this is a real play you have to be a part of.
Right. And
Game's not over. Aaron Rodgers completed the Hail Mary like 2 weeks ago. Like
Yeah.
you have to be ready for this. It's
right.
bizarre.
And even without the tip, like the ball still came close to reaching the end zone, and he wasn't a part of
Yeah.
it at all until the worst moment where he comes in and instead of swatting the ball down, punches it up, and it's perfect. I mean,
Yeah,
Noah
so,
Brown's
yeah.
standing right there. It's
Yeah.
just, this is the
This is
full
so
clip
sh-
of him. I mean,
It's
big leap.
unbelievable.
He gets a hand on it, and the ball goes right to Brown.
Goes right to Brown. And as somebody else said, like the most casual like catch of a Hail Mary. Like
Right.
he's, in end zone,
He's
just
just
like,
standing
boom.
there.
Yeah, he's just like, okay, cool. Oh, that worked out. And the video of Dan Quinn on the sideline going crazy, and kudos to the director, whoever directed the game, because they managed to get a shot of Caleb Williams looking disgusted and all that, the chaos of it. Unbelievable. I mean, look, it shouldn't have come down to this. Just to talk about this game for one quick second, it shouldn't have come down to this.
Game should have been over.
Good shot. I mean, like they once again inefficient in the red zone, had to settle for field goals, and then they couldn't stop the Bears on a couple of drives when they needed to. They gave up the big run to Swift for the touchdown, and then they should have scored, with 6 minutes left, but they do the stupid refrigerator Perry, and the guy fumbles it, and we get second life, but then we can't move the ball, and we have to punt back. And then they come down, and then the bad pass interference on Keenan Allen was a good call, and so and they punch it. Like there was a bunch of different things that
Quinn should have gone for it on 4th and inches. You can ice the game there. If you got that far to win the game, you got Jayden Daniels. I think you sneak that. Like game's over.
I don't know. You're on your own 10 or whatever it was. But to your point though, I mean the counter argument to me is that like even if you don't get it, then it's like you're still going to have to punt, and whether they have to go 10 yards, they have to go 40 yards.
Right. That's the thing. It's like also in that situation, if you don't get it and they are going to score, then you have more time.
You have more time back,
so,
right? Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't like that call, but worked out in the end. I'll never forget just Dan Quinn looking for someone to hug. After that was an incredible moment.
We were in football. Just very quickly, I'll just describe my situation. I was in Football Night in America. We're on live. And so, we're doing the show. The game's still going on. It was a 4:30 game or whatever. It's taken a long time. And so we're live on air. And so how it works at Football Night in America is that you see the games on these big screens that are off camera. And so, but like at some point when like Maria or Devin or Jason or somebody like that Sims has to do something on the screen, they take it off. And so sometimes I'm watching the games on these big screens, but sometimes I'm watching the late games in the research area. And so I'm behind. Shout out to J.K. and Rosie, two of our researchers and producers on the show. And so I'm behind them watching on these like little monitors. And then we're in a commercial break during the Hail Mary, and so they turn on these big screens. And so for some reason, I don't realize this. I mean, the play's 13 seconds long. So we're all just watching it together in the studio. But their side is for some reason, like I guess because the feed is slightly different, is like 2 seconds ahead. And so we're all just watching.
Pivotal
And he's
2
running
seconds.
around. No, I know. We're
Yes.
watching. And as I'm seeing Daniels lean back to throw, all of a sudden I hear like, whoa, wow. And I'm like, what? What the hell just happened? And then boom, so it was just like, and then, listen, I'm a middle-aged man, and I went like, hell yeah! Oh my God! Like I start screaming.
best.
I'm at work surrounded by colleagues, and I am screaming like a idiot. You know what I mean?
It was magical. It was a magical moment. It was a moment of the season. Moment of the past few seasons, to be honest. I can't remember anything like that. It was incredible.
And Jayden Daniels has been one of the stories of this NFL season. And after the game,
Faith in 5, baby. Faith in 5.
We got to hear from Jayden Daniels on just how special that walk-off moment was for him and the Commanders.
I was juiced up for sure. I'm excited because, that's kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Like, not too many people get to experience stuff like that. That was my first time. So, obviously, I was juiced up, the whole stadium, team, sideline, everybody.
How much fun was that for you? Just coming off the field, the locker room vibe, all the guys in there.
It was great for, the whole city. DMV, not just us, the fan base. Without them, they had the place rocking.
Jayden Daniels pretty calm, honestly, at the presser, considering how crazy that moment was.
12.79 seconds, as you see the tweet here from Next Gen Stats. Jayden Daniels held onto the ball for 12.79 seconds on his game-winning 52-yard Hail Mary touchdown to Noah Brown. The first touchdown pass with a time to throw over 10 seconds in the Next Gen Stats era since 2016. Hashtag raise hell, hashtag Chicago versus Was. What's great is like not one holding call either. It's like, the manage that he was able to get, 12.79 seconds without any holds was awesome.
I wasn't going to say it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Well, the only thing I'll say on that, and I know Chicago fans are bitching like, there were two obvious holds. I get
Hail
that.
Mary.
But
The rules go out the window.
That's what it's going to say
Yeah.
because, by the way, like if you want to call a hold on a Hail Mary, and I get it because it's the rules, then you're going to have to start calling pass interference on Hail Mary because that's the other thing is they're all there and they're doing this and the wide receivers are being touched before the ball gets there. That is pass interference. And I'm just telling you, if you're a defensive team, you don't want the holds call because it's much more like if they're actually going to call all the rules, pass interference happens a lot more. And now you've got an untimed play from the one. You know what I mean? When they start calling the, so
Which
I mean,
really ruins the moment.
So exactly. All I'm saying is like, I get it. There were holds, but there was also like pass interference. I think if you watch that play again, they're like, everyone's getting shoved around.
It's a pile.
It's a pile. Luke McCaffrey's being tossed around like a rag doll down there.
Yep. Connor Rogers week to week with a shoulder injury after that shove, much like Jordan Mason. And Shohei Ohtani. I will say one thing that I'll not forget from yesterday is just how incredibly good Jayden Daniels and particularly Lamar Jackson were at buying time on those final throws, just evading the pressure, like just a preternatural sixth sense for where the pressure is coming from. Particularly Lamar, the way he was able to fake guys out was really impressive. In terms of the game itself and fantasy repercussions, Bears offense takes a big step back. Caleb Williams and everything was just broken for three quarters. They've kind of found their way in the final quarter. And
he made a couple of brilliant throws down the stretch.
At the end, for sure.
He came up big down the stretch, Caleb. And DeAndre Swift as well was a monster.
Yeah, credit to the Commanders' defense, by the way. I mean, again, like I don't think we. No.
We're talking about the Bears' fantasy offense.
But. And hang on, though. I'm saying that there's a fantasy implication. I mean, I'm saying that...
It's not a punching bag.
Yeah, exactly. I am saying that give the Commanders' defense some credit because I thought they played well against an offense that came in hot and that maybe, as we reset for fantasy and just trying to spin this forward for fantasy, is that maybe the Commanders' defense isn't a pushover, isn't a, start whoever you've got against them as well. That's all I'm saying here. That's my point here is before we sit here and go like, Caleb stinks and blah, 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 we're out on the Bears.
Right.
Like, hey, maybe give some
pressure.
This was
full credit to Coach of the Year, Dan Quinn, who was ready to kill after he punted on 4th and inches, but it seemed to get that defense to a level of competence to go with what should be an all-world offense. Jayden Daniels will be better. It was clear I think he was a bit limited by the oblique, didn't have the same power as normal until that final throw.
But just, again, to your point about Coach of the Year, I will just say, like, the Commanders on offense, like, they don't have, like, it's still very narrow. It was a tough day at the office for Brian Robinson, but, Daniels makes a lot of fantasy points on that last Hail Mary. Otherwise, they were inefficient in the red zone. But, like, third straight 100-yard game for Terry McLaurin. He's had at least 15 fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. Like, he is a top 15 wide receiver going forward. But after that, there's not one guy on the offense where if you're a defensive coordinator, other than Brian Robinson and McLaurin, you're like, oh, man, got to stop that guy. Like, we got to make sure we've got a plan for Zach Ertz. Like, Noah Brown was, like, bouncing around the league. I'm just saying, like, they've done a really good job with, like, pieces. Like, I don't think anyone's going, like, if only we had Olamide Zacchaeus, you know what I mean? Like, then we'd be complete. You know what I mean? Like, Zach Ertz was out of football. I mean, like, it's unbelievable what they're doing with the pieces they have.
Yeah, it's week 8, and they have 50% more wins than they had last year. They had 4 wins last year. They have a good chance of going 12-5, 11-6.
Coach of the Year. Your Coach of the Year wins, I think, are going to make up for all your Giants to win the NFC East.
Faith in 5. Faith in Quinn. Get me back, Quinn.
Yeah.
Our next game, the Cardinals upset the Dolphins at Miami, 28-27. Matthew, a big day for ride or die. Kyler Murray completed 26 of 36 for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Maybe most importantly, he got Marvin Harrison Jr. going in this game.
He certainly did. 86% of his targets, he caught Marvin Harrison Jr. entering the Week 8, just an under 50% catch rate. Just him and Kyler Murray just weren't on the same page, and there were reports that during the week that Kyler Murray went into the wide receivers room and sat down with Marvin and was just like, what works for you, what's not? And like they really worked at trying to get on the same page, and the results were clear. 7 targets for Harrison, 6 of them were on deep passes as well. So it wasn't just like dink and dunk stuff. They were taking shots down the field. 6 for 111 and a receiving touchdown. It's his second best fantasy game of the season here for MHJ, which was great to see. And let's hear for Kyler Murray, who now has at least 20 or more fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. My ride or die. He's now QB8 on the season. For everyone that's giving me a ton of crap on social media for, your ride or die is dying or whatever, he's now QB8.
Sick insult.
Yeah, good one.
Sick slam.
And I'm just going to say, so some of the quarterbacks that went ahead of Kyler this year, Patrick Mahomes, he's QB21 on the season. Anthony Richardson, he's QB29. C.J. Stroud, he's QB19. So I'm just saying, I feel pretty good about Kyler Murray at QB8 right now. Right now he's about at ADP, and I feel like it's only going to get better as the second half of the season comes along, as him and MHJ continue to get going. Trey McBride continues to get going as well. And by the way, not only they play on Monday night, they have to travel on a short week to Miami, West Coast team going for a 1 o'clock game on the East Coast. And this is a game, and Miami's all excited. Tua's back,
right.
Whole thing. Big win for the Cardinals. Big win for Kyler Murray on Call of Duty weekend.
Let's
you
go.
animals. Let's go. There you go. So, yeah, Sleeper NFL. Sleeper's a game platform, and they've been just the social team there has just been killing Kyler. I see it all the time.
That
They're
tweet
just
today
killing
is
him about
Call of Duty Black Ops 6 release day.
Right.
And then Kyler clapped back, coming from the Timu of fantasy,
Which
is
good.
A really good insult.
Pretty
by the
good.
way. I'll be watching Kyler Murray's YouTube channel this week personally.
1,000%. It's a weird one because I know that and I know some of the guys at Sleeper, they're good guys. But the social team, it's weird. I know their job is to generate interest, but it's a bad look for the brand. I sort of feel like I don't know, when you're
it's a little engagement farming.
I guess, but I know it is totally engagement farming, but it's also I don't know.
Just low hanging fruit.
It's really it's I literally posted anyway, whatever. I saw that they did a similar joke on Instagram, and I literally put that's such a lame joke. It's such an old tired joke. And,
I mean, what the mainstream media doesn't want you to know is your favorite NFL player probably plays a lot of video games.
Yeah.
All of them do. They all do.
But for some reason, Kyler Murray just gets piled on relentlessly.
Yeah, well, it's because they put it into the contract. Which is stupid, by the
fault,
way.
yes.
And none of those people that did that are still with the team.
Yep.
They're
on your team. And they're playing, they're succeeding.
Funny how that works
that's
out.
not true. No, it was. I mean, it was the general manager and the coach.
Dolphins side of the ball, Devin Achane was a monster. Even though we got vultured at the goal line a couple of times by Raheem Mostert, but goes 6 for 50 through the air and a touchdown, 10 for 97 on the ground. I think this offense just broadly looked fixed, even if it was perhaps a little bit underwhelming from Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, who goes 6 for 72 and 4 for 45 respectively. But Connor, I think going forward, you can basically treat the Dolphins as though they were the Dolphins we all thought coming into the year with Tua.
Yeah, I think so. I think most importantly, just his involvement in the pass game is what you love to see. If he's going to be getting that kind of pass game work, Achane, you fire him up and feel good about him. It's just, you're kind of disappointed. What are we going to get from Jalen Waddle where he was drafted and the expectations of this team? Their backs were against the wall in this game. It's a tough loss, but this offense at least looks much better with Tua back, of course.
Yeah, the only other thing, 21% target share to your point about Achane involvement in the passing game. Raheem Mostert, friend of the podcast, Raheem Must Start, Raheem the Dream, saw both goal line rushes in this one. He got 5 of the 6 red zone rushes. So I just wonder, does Raheem Mostert suddenly, I think, much more on the flex radar if he's going to take over that goal line role? And certainly, Achane may be more of an high-end RB2 than low-end RB1 if he's not going to get as much in close work. So again, kind of an interesting switch that was not the case prior to Tua going down, which is Mostert getting all the goal line work. We'll see if it's a one-game thing or if that's actually how they want to use those guys.
One of the biggest surprises of the weekend, guys, is the Browns under Jameis Winston.
This wasn't a surprise. What do you mean?
They were 10-point underdogs.
I'm just saying.
Not that Jameis led a competent offense compared to Deshaun Watson. That was not surprising.
Yes.
The win in itself
Okay.
was very impressive for this team, Jay.
Yes, and it was the full Jameis. It's ridiculous that Baltimore lost this game. It's completely absurd that they lost the game between the Tucker missed field goals, between the 20 dropped interceptions from Jameis.
Kyle Hamilton,
come on, dude. Insane. Rashad Bateman dropping like a 50-yard pass from Lamar Jackson, then blaming the sun, and then Lamar being on the sideline being like, you cannot blame the sun for dropping that pass.
We play a sport outdoors.
Yeah, you tripped. You didn't. It wasn't the sun, it was you tripped, and then you were stumbling to catch it. So insane.
But it hit him like boom, like right there.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It was very frustrating, someone who needed Baltimore in that game.
Of course.
They had an outlier day,
by the way,
sure.
the week before, when Rashad Bateman's playing for producer Steven, he goes crazy.
Nuclear.
Yes. But this week, when Steven's playing somebody else, Rashad Bateman does Rashad Bateman things.
Yeah.
Wonk.
To be fair, Baltimore had no business beating the Bengals a few weeks ago, so it kind of evened out a little bit, but still, absurd that they lost that game. Kyle Hamilton, the biggest culprit. But with Jameis, this is going to be the Jameis experience.
Yeah.
And the idea that he is like Joe Flacco 2.0 from last year, the Redux, that is true to an extent. I think Jameis could have had 4 picks in this game pretty easily.
It's wild.
But he gives them hope. Drive to drive, he gives them the hope that they can actually move the ball, and that's the key, and Cedric Tillman was the big beneficiary.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, it was a great game script, and Baltimore is as bad a pass defense in the NFL, but I will just, very quickly, before we get to Tillman, I just want to say that Winston, home to the Chargers, bye at New Orleans, home to Pittsburgh. So the schedule gets a little bit tougher here, but I think he is very much a very viable QB2 the rest of the way, and a QB1 streamer in the right matchup. He heads into Monday Night Football as the 8th best quarterback in fantasy football. Cedric Tillman, why can't I sometimes be wrong? I want to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong about Cedric Tillman going off on me, because Connor had him, and Connor in the League of Assholes, tonight it doesn't even matter. I've been slapped like a grape. I've been crushed like a grape. I've been completely decimated. And I had a good game, but Connor has the high score in our league. I put up a really good game. Here's our matchup right here.
You play the high scorer every week.
Every single week. It's unbelievable. Look at this. Look, Fantasy Life commenter, the Connor's team, he put up 159. He's still got Tyrone Tracy and Najee Harris to go tonight. I mean, Josh Downs. It was just...
Travis Kelce finally caught a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Kelce goes off as well. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Every single one of his guys. He gets the 2 touchdowns from Mostert.
It's great.
The 2 BS touchdowns from Mostert.
It's a lovely day.
It was ridiculous. I mean, again, I just got my ass kicked and handed to me right there as well. I'm so beat up. But one of the things I did say last week was that Cedric Tillman was going to go off and be part of the defeat at the hands of Connor Rogers, and he did this, by the way. And the reason I said this about Cedric Tillman is because we, as a show, have been massive Cedric Tillman fans ever since he was drafted, and by we, I really mean Connor Rogers. Watch this.
This is a phenomenal player and a true outside wide receiver in a draft full of smaller slot targets. Tillman's 6'3", he's bigger than Quentin Johnston. He's got better hands. He only dropped 5 passes over the last 2 years on 145 targets. He's got the frame to go over the middle of the field. I mean, really, I saw Cortland Sutton. He's got a totally different kind of competitive drive on the field than a lot of wide receivers in this draft.
I bet you the Browns go 4 and 5 wide at times as well. This is going to be a very fantasy-friendly, very pass-happy offense. So Cedric Tillman, a great late-round flyer in redraft, and certainly a terrific landing spot for when it comes to Dynasty.
We just needed Deshaun Watson out of the way.
Yeah, that's all we did. I mean, honestly.
A little early. We're just
right,
a little early.
We were just a little early. But no, we've talked about him. We talked about him on the waiver wire show last week as well. We've talked about him. We talked about him, honestly, in our reaction to the Amari Cooper trade. We were like, maybe finally Cedric Tillman gets a chance. Club said is completely open. And what I'm going to see if that I'm floating that out there.
I actually like that.
Better than your usual stuff,
Brand.
Club said.
That's like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, Club said.
Better than better.
Club said is open.
Anyway, back-to-back games now with at least 7 receptions and 80 receiving yards. He has almost a 24% target share. He's earning targets at a high rate on an offense that's clearly going to throw. And Jameis has that, F it, Tillman's down there somewhere
really
kind of
does.
vibe. You know what I mean? And so if he's still, we'll talk about more tomorrow because he is not 100% rostered, Tillman. I mean, he is in the League of Assholes, of course, but and in deeper leagues. But anyway, it's a long way of saying that we think this is
for real. This is very for real. Yeah.
Very, very.
Especially with Jameis under center. On the Ravens side of things, Jay, Mark Andrews is maybe back now at this point.
He might be back, and I get that he scored the touchdown, and that's kind of the big takeaway. He goes 5 for 36, but to me, clearly the most important thing is that he played 50 snaps out of 68 for the Ravens, and previously he was playing 50% of the snaps or lower, and so the fact that he is out there, I think gives credence to the idea that, I don't know, maybe he was carrying an injury or something early on, and now he's kind of semi-back.
Semi-back. I think that's the right way. Semi-back. Like 14, still a 14% target share. He's had one game this year with more than a 16% target share. It's still Zay Flowers. They still want to run the ball with Derrick Henry. Lamar's always going to keep it for himself as well. But yes, since week 6, he's the third best tight end in fantasy on a points per game basis. The touchdowns have helped. Third straight game with a touchdown. Of course, he got the 2 the other game as well when I was facing him because, of course, that's what happens. So I would say that, like, He's still not the top 5 fantasy tight end he was drafted to be, but I think he's back on the low-end tight end 1 radar, again, with the bar being so low. Like, I think if I was re-ranking for the rest of the season, he's somewhere in the 8 to 12 range among tight ends, somewhere there, because there's still going to be a decent amount of touchdown equity.
On Sunday Night Football, the Niners hold on against the Cowboys, 2 teams fighting to keep their playoff hopes alive. The Niners win 30-24, and the story of this game, Jay, was George Kittle. He caught 6 of 7 targets for 128 yards and a touchdown. We actually got to hear from Kittle after the game on winning on his holiday. Happy National Tight End Day.
He's the guy who made up National Tight End Day. I don't even know why it's a holiday, but Kittle's the one who made it up.
Worked out for him.
It absolutely did, and for a lot of tight ends. Here's Kittle.
It's a holiday. You're trying to, celebrate all tight ends, not just, guys who get a bunch of targets and stuff. Like, tight ends do the gritty stuff, special teams, goal line stuff. So I'm just happy to have them all run out with me. I really do appreciate my tight end room this year. They've been fantastic. Just helped me out as much as I can be. Any other things I do on my holiday? I think I lost the last 2 on the holiday. So getting a win on National Tight Ends Day was very helpful for my confidence.
Nice.
Yeah.
National Tight Ends Day across the NFL, Week 8. It was a good one.
It's insane because it's this made-up thing, but for whatever reason, like, legitimately, like, it was an NFL record of receptions for tight ends on a single day. You see it there on your screen.
Insane.
177 tight end receptions on Sunday of Week 8, which is the most in the National Football League. Almost 2,000 receiving yards between all the tight ends. 16 touchdowns to tight ends.
Monster days across the board. Kelce, Pitts, Kittle,
Laporta.
Andrews. Laporta finally caught a touchdown
Laporta,
on a ridiculous play.
On a ridiculous play.
That's the
from
kind of
David
day it was.
Montgomery.
Kincaid.
Yeah, exactly.
And Joku got in the end zone.
And
as well.
Joku
Right,
got
had
in
a
the
big
end
day.
zone.
Yep.
Even Zach Ertz against the Bears went 7 for 7.
Tyler Conklin caught a touchdown.
Taylor Conklin caught
It was
a touchdown.
National Tight Ends Day.
It was
unbelievable.
it was unbelievable.
I'll celebrate.
By the way, and I had as part of my parlay Kittle catching a touchdown, so I was glad that cashed as well as Debo. And then, of course, Jordan Mason gets hurt because he might be made of paper mache. I don't know what's going on. Like, how many times?
Unfortunately, he has a confetti shoulder right now.
It seems that way. Brutal. But 6th straight game with at least 14 fantasy points for Kittle. On the season, he's the number 1 tight end in fantasy. He's been terrific, and the connection between him and Brock Purdy will only continue. They're on a bye this week, but then they get back at Tampa Bay, home to Seattle, at Green Bay. So nice schedule upcoming for the Niners, especially against the Bucs and the Seahawks. I feel like Kittle always kills the Seahawks.
With their run game, keep in mind, as much as Guerendo had the big night, 85 yards and a touchdown, he also caught 3 passes. They're on the bye.
Yes.
And then even if Mason is healthy, Christian McCaffrey is expected to be back for Week 10. So I don't think this really moves the needle in the Niners' backfield here.
No, I don't think it does. It's a bummer, you know what I mean? It's for people that, I'm gonna get eliminated from a guillotine league, because we're down to like the last 5 or whatever, and I needed Mason to if Mason gets 10 points, I live, but he did not, because he leaves with 18 yards. It was brutal. Anyway, I'm just gonna complain. But Niners on a bye. I don't know that there's much to take away because I think they'll get healthier. Obviously Ayuk is out, but I think they'll get Juwan Jennings back. Pearsall had some nice moments as well. It was all Debo as expected. To me, the bigger story on the other side of the ball here was just, my guy Yates, CeeDee Lamb, monster game for him. Dak looked better in the second half, fantasy-wise. They still can't run the ball, and Rico Dowdle was a surprise scratch at the beginning of the game.
Dalvin Cook time.
It's a mess. They can't run the ball.
Our next game, the Falcons take care of business, the division rival, the Bucs, 31-26. Jay, an efficient day for Kirk Cousins as he throws 4 touchdowns, completes 23 of 29 passes. Kyle Pitts the big beneficiary of that.
Yeah, I don't know how many people have had 9 touchdowns against one opponent in a single season, but Kirk Cousins, I mean, if he can just play the Bucs secondary every week,
He's
would be
like
QB1.
Boston Scott against the Giants.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But he looked better physically, certainly, than he did last week. Last week he was sailing passes, wasn't stepping into throws against Seattle. Yesterday he looked much improved, and Kyle Pitts was the big beneficiary. Darnell Mooney as well. I think he's just kind of locked in wide receiver 2 every week at this point. And so those two were the story. Disappointing day for Drake London. And then on the ground, again, the 50-50 split between Bijan and Tyler Algier is back.
Since week 5, Kyle Pitts is the 3rd best tight end in fantasy. He's now had 4 straight games with double-digit fantasy points. There's a floor there. Just something to sort of point out. I wonder if he was maybe not feeling 100%. He played only 48% of the snaps. He had just a 61% route participation, both season lows. Now, you don't care fantasy-wise because he had the big plays. He had the 2 touchdowns as well. But it was just sort of kind of a weird one that all of a sudden Pitts' usage was down. We talked about Mooney on Fantasy Football pregame about here's one of the guys that's like getting a ton of deep targets. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers give up a ton of deep targets. So we expected this from, I don't know that I expected wide receiver 9, but we talked about Mooney as somebody that we thought would be a good start. We also thought Detective Drake London would have a very good game here, and he did not. Just a bad day at the office for him. The ball just didn't go his way. I'm not worried about it. He'll be fine moving forward.
On the Bucs side of things, Jay, Baker Mayfield, 50 pass attempts. He completes 37 of them, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It's kind of a Jameis-esque game from Baker in a way. He's had a lot of turnover-worthy plays lately, but that doesn't matter in fantasy because he throws so much, and Cade Otton keeps benefiting from that.
Yeah, I mean, he has 21 touchdowns and 9 interceptions.
Right.
Some guys might end up with that for the whole season. He's played 8 games. So I think Baker is just going to keep flinging it in this Liam Cohen offense that has a huge pass rate over expectation. Going into this, there was a lot of questions about who was going to be the wide receiver who really steps up in the absence of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. The answer is, don't really know, but Cade Otton's awesome, and Cade Otton's going to be the number 1 guy. You start Cade Otton like a wide receiver at this point.
And as expected, they got the running game going as well. It was a weird game. Honestly, I think the Bucs kind of got jobbed here a little bit as well. I mean, one of the Kyle Pitts touchdowns, I think, with better replay. I mean, you've seen the play, like Kyle Pitts kind of takes it easy.
Yep.
Yeah, it comes and knocks it out. It feels like, from the angle, it feels like a fumble, but they didn't have a pylon cam.
Feels like we should just, 1, have a pylon cam, and then 2, when in doubt, comically, you take the touchdown away from Kyle Pitts.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Right. So anyway, but the creamsicle uniforms were awesome.
Yes.
I love seeing that,
great.
and Baker's going to continue to throw, but I don't know we got any clarity in the passing game other than the fact that, yes, Cade Otton finishes the week as the number 1 tight end in fantasy. He's now had at least 1 red zone target at 6 straight games. He's got 5 games with 15 or more fantasy points. And in the games in which he has at least 6 targets, and he's going to get at least 6 targets a game for the foreseeable future. They're at Kansas City next week. That'll be a tough matchup.
Yep, and great call by me in the League of Arseholes, benching Cade Otton and Marvin Harrison Jr. for Jake Ferguson and Tyler Lockett. And as a result, I now need Russell Wilson to score 13 points tonight to win, which is right 50-50 whether he's going to get it.
That is, well, listen, I'm rooting against you, so I hope Russell Wilson gets 12.9 points tonight. Okay. That's what I hope. Yeah.
Chiefs-Raiders, our final game. Kansas City holds on 27-20. Kind of a nondescript game from Patrick Mahomes here, Matthew. 27-38, 262 yards, 2 touchdowns, throws a pick. He ran a little bit, but this has kind of been the story of Mahomes' season.
But weirdly, it was his best fantasy game of the season since week 12 of last year.
And he was QB 16.
I know, exactly. That's my point. Like, it was like kind of a pedestrian day at the office for Mahomes, and yet still his best fantasy day since week 12 of 2023. He finishes as QB 16 as we head into Monday Night Football. But he did get Kelce involved. Big game for him. Season high in fantasy points and target share. 34% target share for number 87. It's been basically 30% over the past 4 games, so they're really ramping him up. First game for DeAndre Hopkins, 33% route participation. He got 3 targets on 14 routes. Just sort of what we talked about. We said, listen, Amari Cooper ran 12. I think that's probably, it's going to be somewhere in that range. So he runs 14 routes. He earns 3 targets. It'll get better. Better days are ahead for DeAndre Hopkins. They didn't need him as much as well. Nice to see Xavier Worthy starting to emerge a little bit. In the last 2 weeks, he's had a 27% target share, and he's had at least 11 fantasy points in 3 of the last 4 games. He gets into the end zone in this one as well. So he's on that wide receiver 3-4 fringe for me. Again, it's some upside, but not really consistent.
Worthy or Hopkins rest of season?
I think Hopkins.
Yeah.
I feel better about. I think there's just more that you can do with Hopkins. Feels like Worthy is more like kind of. I don't want to say one trick, but like
volume floor with Hopkins that you don't get with Worthy. Yeah. Like Worthy can have you a couple 2
Worthy,
to 5
high
point
ceiling,
games.
low floor.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So it does depend what you need. By the way, it's incredible that Mahomes did finish as a top 20 quarterback because if you watched fantasy football pregame, Matthew kind of tried to voodoo doll him.
I did a little bit, yeah. Not on
this.
purpose. Watch this.
Watch this.
Prop a shot time presented by
No,
broken.
That's amazing.
Well, you hit.
no.
Wait,
Who did I break?
Is
Who
that
was that?
Patrick
I think you
Mahomes?
just killed Patrick Mahomes.
I just killed Patrick Mahomes.
Is
I
that
mean,
a,
is there
is that
any
a
hope?
voodoo doll? I hope not.
That's literally the worst. I think that's the worst throw in the history of the show.
Yeah.
I don't know what
I
happened.
just don't like the fact that you knocked Patrick Mahomes' head off. Like,
I know. I killed Patrick Mahomes, but look.
He's back.
He's reborn.
He's been reborn. He's been stitched together. We took him to the emergency room. We performed CPR, and here he is. He's like, I don't want to shake him too much because I don't know. Maybe the glue hasn't.
There's a lot of glue on
but
there.
Off the injury report, ready to get back to duty. We'll put him somewhere back there that's a little safer. I don't know. I don't know what was going on there. It was like, it was Jameis-esque.
It was a terrible throw.
It was a terrible throw. It was Winston-esque.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Kyle Hamilton wasn't there to drop the pass.
Yeah, no.
Killed Patrick Mahomes
It was brutal. I don't know what
Patrick
happened.
Mahomes not on the injury report, thank God.
Yeah.
He is fixed and repaired. But these guys are coming out of Week 8. Jordan Love with the groin injury. Keep an eye on that one throughout the week. He could miss some time, especially with their bye not far away. Brian Thomas Jr. with the chest injury. He'll be week to week. Drake May left the game in the first half with a concussion, so we're assuming he'll be in the protocol. Stephon Diggs with a non-contact looking knee injury. They are on Thursday Night Football, by the way, and Nico Collins is not eligible to come off IR, so this could be literally Tank Dell as their wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk, his season appears to be over with a shoulder injury, which is a shame because Kirk was mentioned in a lot of trade rumors heading up to the deadline, being one of the top names out there. Gabe Davis has a shoulder. Kendre Miller has a hamstring. Debo, who just always gets banged up with his style of play with a rib injury. Jordan Mason left the game, came back, left the game again with this shoulder injury that's been a problem for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, and then DJ Moore left the game, came back, whatever, but we'll see if there was any lingering issues there with DJ Moore.
We're going to take our first break. When we're back, we got Weekend Warriors and Sunday Scaries coming your way right after this.
Yeah, I thought I had good vision throughout the day. Guys were out there making good catches, great plays. And so, I thought we put a complete game. Overall, I thought it was good, growing each and every week and, finding ways to get better.
Courtland Sutton had 100 receiving yards today. It's the first time that a Bronco has had 100 receiving yards in a couple of years now. How big was it to get him really involved and going?
I thought that was a good part of our game plan. We really wanted to get him involved. And, I thought it was really good. I feel bad for the people that sat him in fantasy this week.
Weekend Warriors, that was Broncos rookie quarterback Bo Nix. He feels bad if you didn't start Courtland Sutton. But the problem is we didn't usually start Courtland Sutton because of how Bo Nix has played.
No.
The good news is Bo Nix was great this week.
He really was.
28 of 37, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns, Matthew. 4 carries for 5 yards. He still got a touchdown on the ground, but the Bo Nix, Tim Tebow, Taysom Hill style ended this week.
He looked better. Now,
Yes.
It was a home game against the Carolina Panthers, a depleted Carolina Panthers defense.
Borderline, that's like a spring team.
I mean, it's
Sorry.
a little bit here, but still, he's had at least 20 fantasy points one way or the other in 3 of the last 4 games, and he had 3 touchdown passes, which this is somebody who again had 5 total pass-on touchdowns in his first 7 games. So again, Bo Nix, hooker, and next week he gets Baltimore, a game where you think again you can throw on Baltimore. So it continues to be a viable streamer.
Yeah. I think you make the case that Carolina is twice as bad as any other team in the NFL right now. In terms of how the betting market treats them, they're treated as about 11 points worse than your average team, and the next worst team would be like the Patriots or the Raiders, who are like 6 points worse than your average team. So it's just not viable at the moment. I mean, they're 7-point dogs at home to New Orleans this coming week. So that's where they're at.
Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think Derek Carr will be back to salvage that one, but
hopefully.
Very grim. But good that Bo Nix was at least. I mean, there is something to being able to light up a bad team, and I wasn't sure that Bo Nix was going to be able to do that, and he did. So it's encouraging. He's getting better.
Yeah, and he got Courtland Sutton involved, and so it was encouraging to see.
Pretty dominant win for the Bills, Jay, and James Cook has 17 carries for 111 yards, 2 touchdowns off of that. He also caught 3 passes. When the Bills' offense is really humming, James Cook is going, and is the reason for it most of the time.
Yeah, definitely. And look, the Seattle run defense is one of the worst in the NFL. Think about what even the Falcons did to them last week. Bijan Robinson's best game in a long time. So there's not much resistance, but still encouraging that Cook was able to get that much of the workload. Because I think after Ray Davis performs really well, certainly I thought that he might be a bigger part of the backfield, but no, it's just the James Cook show.
And the other concern coming into the season for James Cook is, look, we know his passing game usage will be there, and we know he's going to get a decent amount of work in between the 20s, but is Josh Allen going to steal?
Right.
Is he going to get vultured at the goal line? Because this is somebody in his first 2 NFL seasons had 4 total touchdowns. 4 in 2 years. Well, through 8 weeks, he's got 7 rushing touchdowns on the season. Like they're using when they get him close. And so he's a locked-in RB1. It's been great to see.
Same could be said for Josh Jacobs right now, Matthew. 25 carries, 127 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, some of that is Jordan Love getting hurt in this game, but still a lot of production for Jacobs.
He's had at least 20 touches in 3 of the past 4 games. I mean, they brought him in there to be a workhorse, and he has been exactly that. Nice to see him get 2 rushing touchdowns. He had just 1 total in the first 7 games, so you knew that positive regression was going to come here. But, listen, Josh Jacobs also, he's the lead running back, getting a ton of work on a very good offense. Good for you. If you got him, you got a bargain. Wherever he went in drafts, it was too low as well. He's running back 3 heading into Monday Night Football.
Jay, Ladd McConkey is establishing himself as Justin Herbert's #1 target. He caught all 6 of his targets, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns for the rookie wide receiver out of Georgia.
Yeah, and I think the key here is just that they're continuing to throw the ball. This isn't the offense that it was in the first 2-3 weeks of the season as Justin Herbert has gotten healthier. They are throwing the ball more. Herbert, again, 2nd week in a row, he absolutely sails by his passing prop. He was set at 205 and a half.
198 at open.
Yeah, he goes for 279.
But you look, exactly. That was a great bet that you called on Fantasy Football pregame. I cashed that. Thank you very much. I tailed you. But look at the top of this list, right? Okay, you got my guy 8, CeeDee Lamb at 1, but Ladd McConkey, Cedric Tillman, Marvin Harrison, 3 rookies. This is the time of year when rookie wide receivers start coming into their own, and we've seen this over the last couple of years, especially over the second half of the season. Rookie wide receivers, not even and Brian Thomas isn't listed there. Right. Malik Neighbors is going to play tonight. It's going to continue to, and I know Tillman's not a rookie wide receiver; he's a second-year guy, but young
Feels
wide
like
receivers
it.
still.
Yeah.
Basically a rookie.
This is his first, no
because he didn't get any
means
work.
you're reborn.
Yes, exactly.
That's where you're going.
Exactly, but I do think McConkey is legitimate. No Quentin Johnson in this one, so no QJ, but still, he's had at least a 20% target share in 6-7 games this year. And Herbert continues to look healthier and healthier. So I think with McConkey, I don't know that he's going to have 29 fantasy points every week, but I don't think this is a fluke.
Our last weekend warrior, Calvin Ridley, alive and well, Matthew. He's wide receiver 5 right now after catching 10 of 15 targets for 143 yards. Things look different with Ridley and Mason Rudolph out there.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, just it's not like the targets and the route participation isn't new. He's been out there a lot. They've been trying to target him a lot. It's just he hasn't been on the same page with Will Levis. With Mason Rudolph, game script helped. The Lions were kicking their butts for much of this game, so that helped. But certainly, Ridley, super talented wide receiver, is getting a ton of targets, and obviously now with DeAndre Hopkins in Kansas City, there's even less competition for targets on a team that's likely going to be throwing in many of their games because of game script. So, great to see Ridley off the schneid.
Sunday Scaries, headlined by Anthony Richardson. Things are not getting better right now, Jay. Richardson completes 10 of 32 passes for 175 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. In terms of passing efficiency, Jay, he's on a totally different planet than the rest of the league right now.
I really can't remember seeing something like this, someone who just cannot complete passes. At one point, he was 2 of 15 through the air, and he had 2 sacks for 15 yards lost at the same time.
Yeah. One of those 2 of 15, by the way, was Josh Downs just completely, no one within 40 yards of him. Yeah. Josh Downs still had to take a step back to catch the ball and then run. And of course, I'm playing Josh, so I'm in the screening room, oh, come on. Come on, he's been killing Josh Downs' fantasy value all along. Everyone benches him except for this one, who starts him against me.
League Assholes is tough. Tough to fill out a lineup.
It really is, believe me. I had to start Troy Franklin.
Yes.
I mean,
you got your 1 point.
Yeah, it's dicey. It's dicey out there, especially because with Mike Evans, it hurt for me. Rashee Rice. Anyway.
So Richardson threw this pick at the end of the first half, which was like they should have just been running out the clock. It was an awful pick.
Yes.
Made awful by the fact that the previous play, he basically threw a pick that was dropped. So he just seems broken at the moment. He's still able to cash our rushing prop over from pickup lines, fortunately, where he had the 26-yarder on the final play to get that home. But he just looks completely lost.
Yeah, he is. He's not accurate. He's not confident. It's disappointing. We haven't seen the growth from him that you're hoping for in year 2.
He took a playoff because he was tired as well. I can't remember seeing that.
I've never heard that from a quarterback.
Yeah.
If he's tired, get on the comms and run a handoff.
Yeah.
Or if you can't run a handoff, just take a 3-step drop.
Flacco came in and handed the ball off.
Right.
Like, I just don't understand. It just seems like something's wild. But I think they're just going to have to keep starting him. Like they invested too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird though. You're probably right, but it's the Sunday night game this week. They're 4-4. I mean, they're still in the playoff race, very much so, right? And they're playing the Vikings this week on Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock. I'm a company man. And do you think if you're Shane Steichen, I get it. This kid's your future. You've invested a lot. But on the other hand, like, you've got an opportunity to win, and Joe Flacco gives you a better chance to win at this point. Like, what do you do if you're the Colts?
I think what separates that, though, is that they're not going to win Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. Okay, if they sneak into the playoffs as a wild card with Joe Flacco, great. They're going to be 9.5-point dogs in Baltimore in week 1. So I just think that you have to find out what you have with Richardson. Haven't seen enough to completely dismiss him. There's still the talent. There's still the raw tools. So I think you probably just have to play out the year with him. Unless you want to give him like a 2-week reset to clear his mind. But he just had a couple of weeks off.
Yeah, and here's my other question here. I worry that, again, to your point, like just looks broken, right? And confidence is down, everything like that. You don't want to like Mac Jones him or Zach Wilson him because like those are two guys that came into the league with a ton of talent. They were raw, and just because the situations were such a chaotic mess around them at some point, they both became broken.
This is different though. He has a good O-line. He has receiving weapons in Michael Pittman and Josh Allen. He has Jonathan Taylor. It's not going to get better.
He's sinking everyone around him. Yeah, especially Pittman, by the way. Pittman had one catch in this game.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that on pregame that we didn't like Pittman this week. But
like Pittman this year.
I mean, season lows in receiving yards and catch rate. He's had below a 20% target share in 3 of the last 4 for Pittman as well. You can't start him. I don't think I guess Downs, like, just because of the talent. But, like, other than Taylor, there's no Colt that you feel great about other than Jonathan Taylor. But I'm just asking, like, do you think continue to roll him out there if he continues to struggle? Again, they play the Vikings, who are going to blitz the hell out of him. Here's their next 4. At Minnesota, home to Buffalo, at the Jets, home to Detroit. Those are 4 really good defenses in a row.
Yeah. Well, they're probably going to go 1-3 or 0-4, and then the rest of the season you just roll him out there and hope it gets better.
The Jets is the game you hope you win out of those 4, but the rest they'll be decisive underdogs in a season where it's alive and well. So, all right, another Sunday Scaries here. Geno Smith, a guy that's been throwing the ball a ton this year, only 29 pass attempts, 212 yards, 1 pick. It's trending downwards for Geno.
You're the Geno whisperer, Jay. Explain this to me. I don't understand the Seahawks. They're great one week, and then they looked awful.
Very Jekyll and Hyde.
They had 2 plays that really just screwed them at the goal line where Geno tripped over someone's foot, and that cost them on 4th down. He had a snap go 20 yards over his head as well. It's just comic, just absolutely comical. Look, they don't have a great defense. They didn't have DK Metcalf. I think Geno most weeks is going to be fine as a streamer. They throw the ball a ton, but yeah, he's not an elite quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to be able to service guys like JSN, who had a good game. But yeah, it was a rough day at the office. The conditions didn't help either in the rain.
No, it was very rainy, but they play the Rams at home next week, so hopefully he gets off the schneid there. But under 30 pass attempts now in back-to-back games, so this sort of pass-happy offense seems to be slowing down a little bit. Other side of the ball in that one, Amari Cooper, after the exciting debut, 1.3 fantasy points as we head into Monday Night Football. Amari Cooper is wide receiver 104.
Yeah. Let's give it another week with Amari.
This looks like a good trade for the Browns. Cedric Tillman looks way better than Amari Cooper.
Really does. Played only 51% of the snaps, though, but that's, an increase, 63% route participation. Better days of the office. I think the Bills just were able to get the run game going. Keon Coleman made a couple of nice catches.
They ran away with the game.
I will as well. And what do you know? We've got through the Sunday Scaries without making Connor talk about his Jets.
Amazing.
That's really nice of us. Really generous of us.
It's the least they could do for me when I roll in here on Mondays.
Tough to beat Jacoby Brissett these days.
I mean,
that's what people are saying.
Yeah. Did you see this stat, by the way? The Jets had 0 turnovers, held the Patriots to 247 yards, and still lost. They're the first team to do that since week 3 of 2012, where they didn't turn the ball over and held their opponent under 250 yards. They're the first team to do that since week 3 of 2012. That's Rich Cimini putting that out on Twitter. The Jets are record breakers.
You got to say it's impressive.
Yeah.
You got to give them that. Wildly impressive. We'll be back after this. DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 place to bet touchdowns, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code Barry when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
It's yours.
It's time for last call. Let's take a look at the most bet props for Monday Night Football on DraftKings right now. Theo Johnson receiving yards over 12.5. George Pickens receiving yards 60+. Chris Boswell field goals made over 1.5. George Pickens receiving yards 100+. That's an alt line, so that's plus 400. Najee Harris rushing yards 60+. That's another alt line. That's minus 165. Jay, what do you like in this lovely Monday Night Football matchup?
A little blasphemous, but I'm going against my man Najee Harris, kind of. I'm taking the over on Jaylen Warren's rushing yards at 30.5. I just don't think that Najee Harris, his rushing yards prop should be more than double what Jaylen Warren's is. Warren outsnapped Harris last week, narrowly, and Warren had 12 carries for 44 yards. The Steelers are almost touchdown favorites in this one. Expect they'll be in position to run the ball against a slightly below average Giants run defense, and Jaylen Warren continue to get a healthy share of the carries and go over 30.5.
What about you, Matthew?
So I can't believe I'm taking my good name to this, but I'm going to channel my inner Lawrence Jackson, and I'm taking Daniel Jones at 200 yards passing at plus money. It's going off at plus 120. Look, he's had at least 200 passing yards in 4 of his previous 5 games. The last 3 quarterbacks to face the Steelers have all thrown for at least 200 yards, including Aiden O'Connell, Dak Prescott, obviously, and Aaron Rodgers. So Daniel Jones, a negative game script, having a healthy Malik Neighbors back as well. Wan'Dale Robinson, the PPR merchant. I think he gets to 200 yards here. The line's 190, so I'm going to go to 200. Give me plus money. 200 yards for DJ, Danny Dimes.
Okay.
Something we agree on, Matthew.
We think the game O-line.
We think Daniel Jones is going to be throwing a lot in this game. That's why I'm going Wan'Dale Robinson over 4.5 receptions. He does this almost every week. He's only going to average about 6 yards a catch, but it doesn't matter. They keep throwing to him underneath over and over again. He is absolutely a PPR merchant. I like over Wan'Dale Robinson receptions tonight. Let's take a look at the fantasy relevant players in this game with Matthew's rankings. Russell Wilson and Daniel Jones not too high on the quarterback list, but a very running back heavy game here, Matthew.
Yeah, and again, I agree with Jay's narrative here that, we expect the Pittsburgh to be up and Arthur Smith wants to run, so Harris and Warren should get a lot of run here. And I think Warren is certainly flex viable because Russell Wilson doesn't run, but he elevates the offense, so they're going to run both of these guys as well. I hope we get more clarity on Tyrone Tracy versus Devin Singletary. I have Tracy higher. I think he's the better running back. Certainly the underlying usage last week was very favorable to Tracy, but we want to see it production-wise here.
Yep. Wan'Dale Robinson probably flex viable
Yes.
and a better option than, say, the Pat Fryermuths of the world if you're desperate for a flex tonight.
Yeah, and we'll see if Malik Neighbors can get going. Daniel Jones has to get the ball out tonight against not only T.J. Watt, but Highsmith on the other side. And the Giants don't have tackles.
100%.
Right
and, maybe Theo Johnson can continue to do a little something as the tight end for the Giants.
12.5 yards.
It's a day after National Tight End Day. So, all right, it's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. For Jay, Connor, for Jayden Daniels and Noah Brown, and Commanders fans everywhere, Hail Mary, hail little Commanders, hail victory. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.